So we'll just kind of jump right in here. And as Brian said, we'll talk a little bit about what ISOWorx can do for you guys. It is a tool that runs on top of AutoCAD, BricsCAD, CADWorx, AutoCAD Plant 3D. The benefit of it is to be able to post-process your title blocks or even go through and rename all your ISOs. So if you have a bunch of title blocks you need to update with the process conditions or specialized information, the revision, something to that effect for each ISO, we can do that through an Excel spreadsheet and post-process the ISOs to have that information in there for you. As I mentioned, you can also rename these ISOs. So if your current isogen setup is not spitting them out the way you're liking, or it doesn't fit the client requirements, maybe it needs to go into a document management system or something, we can rename those ISOs. And if you're going to rename them, it makes sense to rename those continuations as well. So we have the capability to do that as well. And finally, most companies deliver a PDF form of this, so we can batch print your ISOs into a PDF with just a click of a button. So with that, let's go ahead and jump in and take a look and see what we have here. Inside of our products, we have a ribbon, so you can launch AutoCAD Plant 3D, load our ribbon in there, and from there, it'll give you a list of our tools. We do have our ISOWorx right here. And so once you open up the ISOWorx, you get this palette that we show here on the screen. We've got a couple tabs here to work with. The first tab is just basic setup. So we're asking you where your models are going to reside. I'm just working with the out-of-the-box sample project for Plant 3D. The next one is going to be your work in progress folder. So this allows you to run your ISOs through Plant 3D and then go ahead and put a copy of them in this directory. And once they're in here, this is where you can open up the ISOs, double check to make sure that they ran okay. If there's any lines that are crossing text or any cleanup that you have to do, this is typically the stage that people go through and clean that up. So we just have you put it into a separate folder so we know which folder you want us to post-process. And once we process that folder and that ISO, then we're going to place them into another directory for you. So you always have a backup to know where you came from and where you're going to. And those are going to go into this completed folder. And all of this magic is happening through an Excel line list, which most design engineering firms have already. So it's pretty easy to adapt your current line list to work with the ISOWorx line list. To open it up, you can just click this icon here, and it looks like it opened up. There we go. And with this line list, all we're looking for are a couple main items for ISOWorx, and then the rest of it comes down to whatever you have in your AutoCAD title block. So these first 4 columns are required by ISOWorx depending on the settings that you guys are using. The first one is simply the tag or the line number that you have inside the model. So this will line up directly with the model information you have. The next column is what you would like the name to become. I kept it pretty simple in this case just to show its capabilities, but really I'm just taking the project number and appending it to the ISO name just to show a little bit of the capabilities of renaming and updating continuations. The next 2 columns go hand in hand with multi-sheet control. So essentially, if your ISO in the model is just the 6T-1000, it doesn't have this -1, -2, so this one ISO can span multiple sheets. We can process them that way, or if you turn it into a multi-sheet control, we're going to look at each line through the entire ISO individually so that you can update the attributes. It gives you a little bit more control down the road for revisions and things of that nature. The rest of the columns across the top here are just the tag from our title block inside of ISOs. So we open up the ISOs, you can get the data a couple different ways. A lot of companies are just using the AutoCAD data extraction tool, extract all the tags out, plop them across the top here. If you're working with an existing Excel line list, you can just append this row at the very top and hide it when you're finished so that your line list looks the same to the end product when you print it, but it will have this additional information in there. So you don't even need to have a separate line list, though many of our clients do separate them out that way. So once we've got this set up, then you just start filling in the data that you would like to show up on your ISOs. Minimize this guy down and jump over to the post-processing tab. The first column here is just the models. So that models directory, we know we've got 3 models in there. If you need to open this up and take a look at it, maybe one of your ISOs isn't coming out properly and you want to go fix the model. We do give you the capability to select a line, open the model up. You can even export these out to Excel. We do give you that functionality on each one of these columns here. So if you do want a list of all the ISOs that are ran, you can export that out. Same thing with the completed, you can export those as well. The next column over is our work in progress. So this is where you've taken all of your ISOs that you've ran through Plant 3D and put them inside of this folder. From here, we can open them up one by one. So we've got the open icon down here. We can delete one by one. We can delete the entire directory and start over. Or again, we can export these guys out. And then once we've post-processed them, same functionality, all inside the completed folder over here. Across the top, we can see we do have 30 ISOs in this first section, and then completed is 0. So it's a good way to kind of keep an eye on where your project is, how many you've finished, compared to how many you still have yet to go. Now onto the post-processing side of things. We do give you 3 options. So the first option here is number 1. It will allow you to take this line number and append the information that you found in this DWG column. So in the end, the ISO name will look pretty much like this. So 6P dash, and then have this information. The next option, number 2, is just we're going to take this name and get rid of it and only use the DWG name. So whatever's in this column, we're going to completely rename the ISO to that format. And the third one is, hey, our isogen's set up perfect. We don't really need to go through the process of updating the continuations or the ISO names. We just need to post-process the attributes when we're finished with this stuff. So those are your 3 options to work through right there. And then we do give you a few more options in this little toolbox here. You hit the drop-down list. If you are going to be updating the name to include the ISO DWG column, you might want to use this turned on right here. It'll update the continuations to also show the new field. If you're using number 2 and you want to replace the information, then maybe you want to go through and replace the annotation as well inside your ISOs. And then finally, number 3 is the multi-sheet attribute control. And that's where I talked a little bit earlier about if you have these 1, 2, all the way down to 12, or however many ISOs you have individualized, you want to make sure you turn that on, and that will allow the software to process each line individually. So let's go ahead and just start with the attribute update. So I'm just going to click on number 3. We do give you a little progress bar down below here. So this entire model has roughly 256 ISOs in it. You can see it's walking through the line list right now and processing the first 30 out of that line list. And once we get to 30, it's going to fly through the rest of them because we're not processing those at that time. So as you can see, it doesn't take a whole lot of time to go through and process these guys. If we take a look at the original ISO that opened up here. And now come over to this one and open this guy up. So at this point, you can see we've been able to take a standard title block with whatever comes with it. You can fill out some of the information if it's consistent across the board, and then update it with new information all the way through. So a lot of this is going to stay static once you've ran it 1 or 2 times, but you are going to be updating your revisions quite frequently. But it's nice to be able to manipulate all of this data just from an Excel spreadsheet. And now that we've changed that once, let's go ahead and go back into the spreadsheet here and walk through the process of just adding a new revision. So we've got revision 0. We're going to go IFC, and we're going to use today's date. And it's going to be drawn by me, checked by you, and approved by them. We'll just copy this down. So the revision typically wouldn't go 1 through whatever, but we'll just leave that since you kind of get the idea of what's going on here. We'll resave our Excel spreadsheet. Go ahead and delete all of the ISOs that we just modified. Really doesn't take that much time to go through and reprocess these guys. If I click on number 3 again, same process. It's just going through, opening up each ISO, updating the information that it needs to. And when it's finished, we'll go ahead and see that confirmation dialog. All right, there we go. We finished the 30. This confirmation does pop up each time just to let you know that either it was successful or maybe somebody had this ISO open while you were working on it. We'll let you know that, hey, somebody else had it open. We could not process that for you. But it does tell you what the original name was and if we're renaming it. So next time we go through and choose number 2, you'll see a new name over here. But the main goal of this is you want to scroll through here and make sure that everything came through as successful. Or when you click the OK button, that these line up one for one. That way you know everything was processed the way it should have been. Let's go ahead and open this guy right back up. And now you can see we've got our brand new ISO information in here. So that quickly, we just updated 30 drawings. Pretty quick, pretty easy to go through. Let's go ahead and cancel that and erase all these guys. We'll walk through one more time, this time renaming everything. So same process. Now that we've got the Isogen Excel spreadsheet updated with all the correct information, we don't have to do anything else. It's just going through, reading this information, and then applying it to each one of the ISOs back here. So we'll let that guy finish up. It is opening every ISO, renaming them, updating all the continuations. We've had customers tell us that to rerun all of these ISOs through Isogen inside of Plant 3D could take 3.5 hours to get that done. As an entire test, I ran through the entire project here with ISOWorx, and it took roughly 3 minutes to be able to update all 256 drawings here. Much faster than having to rerun them if all you need to do is post-process this data. And of course, if the model changes, yeah, you do need to go in and update that model, but you're just updating the title block or the revision information, much faster to go through and use ISOWorx. So here's our completed section. You can see we've got our old file name with our new file name. Once I hit close, this will populate. And if I open up one of these guys here, you can see that we still have the updated attribute information, but this time we've also gone through and updated all of the original continuations. If you open up this first guy, see here's the original information and now the updated information as well. So super fast to go through and post-process these. Brian mentioned this is one of our oldest. It's been around over a decade now. We've even had clients come through here and work on this with other drawings besides just isometrics. So as long as you've got a title block and a bunch of attributes that you want to work with, we can go through and post-process all of those for you. So the last step of any of this is to deliver a PDF. We have some options down here to print all of them or just print the selected. It is AutoCAD. It does take a while to open up each one of these and print them out. We're using a page setup. So if you guys go through and add a page setup to your AutoCAD title block for your ISOs, set that page setup current. We'll read whatever the current page setup is at that point, and we'll just go through, open up, and print it out for you. So that part is completed. We do have these little icons up here to quickly open up the directories if you need to. So we can see we've got all of our completed ISOs. We can see here we've got all of our completed PDF files. Looks like it opened on the other screen there. And here is our PDF of each one of these. It's kind of the round trip of everything here. It does explain most of the capabilities of our ISOWorx functionality here, as well as the update line numbers. We do rename spools as well. So if you guys are kicking out spool maps and spool drawings, we can go through and update some of that text, same way we did on the line continuation updates. All right, let's go ahead and jump back over here. I believe we've already talked about the title block attributes, renamed some ISOs, updated all the continuations, and printed some PDFs. So all of these things can be done by hand. It doesn't take you too much effort to go open up a drawing, update the title blocks, maybe rename some continuations and hit the print button. But the fact that we were able to go through all of these drawings multiple times within just a matter of a couple minutes really shows the power of what ISOWorx can do.